Welcome to a brand new episode of History Glitch. Today we are stepping away from financial scams and mechanical failures to examine the ultimate system hack. We are exploring a time when the British intelligence network didn't defeat the Nazi war machine with superior firepower, but by sitting around a table and launching the most elaborate, high-stakes role-playing campaign in military history. They bypassed an entire empire's security protocols by creating a completely fictional character from scratch, building his inventory, writing his backstory, and letting the enemy find him. We are diving deep into the extraordinary true story documented in Ben Macintyre's brilliant book, Operation Mincemeat. To understand why this glitch was necessary, we have to look at the strategic map of early 1943. The Allies had just driven the Axis powers out of North Africa. The next logical step was to cross the Mediterranean and invade southern Europe. If you looked at any map, the obvious target was the island of Sicily. It was the perfect stepping stone into Italy. The problem was that the Germans knew this too. They had heavily fortified Sicily with thousands of troops, panzer divisions, and artillery. Winston Churchill famously remarked, "Anyone but a bloody fool would know it is Sicily." If the Allies launched a direct amphibious assault against a fully prepared German defense, it would be an absolute bloodbath. The Allies needed to convince the German High Command that they were bypassing Sicily and attacking Greece and Sardinia instead. But how do you convince a highly sophisticated, deeply paranoid military intelligence network that 2 + 2 = 5? You don't just tell them a lie. You feed them a story so detailed, so intricately crafted, that their own confirmation bias does the work for you. You let them discover the secret. Act 1. Rolling the dice on deception. Enter British Naval Intelligence. A small eccentric team of spies, including Charles Cholmondeley and a man named Ewan Montague, were tasked with solving this impossible problem. They drew inspiration from a top-secret document called the Trout Memo, which had been drafted earlier in the war by another intelligence officer, a man named Ian Fleming, who would later use this experience to write the James Bond novels. The idea was morbid but brilliant. What if a British courier plane crashed at sea? And what if a dead officer washed up on the coast of neutral Spain, carrying highly classified top-secret invasion plans outlining an attack on Greece? Spain was officially neutral, but it was absolutely crawling with Nazi spies. The British knew that if the Spanish authorities found a dead British officer with a briefcase, they would immediately share the contents with the German military intelligence, the Abwehr, before handing the body back to the British. But the Germans were not fools. They would analyze every single thread of clothing, every piece of paper, and every biological detail of the corpse. If they suspected it was a plant, the entire Allied invasion force would be walking into a trap. To make this glitch work, the British intelligence officers had to apply the ultimate expertise rule to their deception. The fake officer couldn't just be a mannequin with a fake document. He had to be a living, breathing human being in the minds of the enemy. They had to build a flawless character. First, they needed a body. They couldn't just use a soldier who had died in combat, because the autopsy would show bullet wounds, not drowning. They needed someone who looked like he had died in a plane crash at sea. In a London morgue, they found Glyndwr Michael. He was a tragic homeless man with no family who had died after ingesting rat poison, which severely damaged his lungs, leaving fluid buildup that closely mimicked the physiological signs of drowning. Glyndwr Michael, a man who had been completely ignored by society in life, was about to become the most important VIP in the Allied war effort. Act 2. Building the character sheet. With the physical avatar secured, Montague and Cholmondeley began the meticulous process of building his character sheet. They named him Major William Martin of the Royal Marines, but a name and a rank weren't enough. A real human being carries the chaotic debris of a real life. The spies essentially became game developers, coding an immersive, choice-driven narrative into Major Martin's pockets. They crafted a rich backstory full of human flaws to make him undeniably authentic. They decided Major Martin was a bit careless with his money. They placed a stern letter from his bank manager in his pocket, demanding payment for an overdraft of £79. They included a letter from his angry father complaining about family matters. They put a book of stamps, a silver cross, matches, cigarettes, and a receipt for a new shirt in his wallet. They even included 2 ticket stubs from a London theater, proving he had been on a date just days before his flight. But the masterpiece of this inventory was his fictional fiancée, Pam. The spies knew that a romantic subplot would anchor the illusion in deep emotional reality. An MI5 clerk named Jean Leslie provided a photograph of herself in a swimsuit to serve as Pam. They placed the photo in Martin's wallet, along with a receipt from a London jeweler for an engagement ring. They even wrote 2 agonizingly authentic handwritten love letters from Pam, talking about how much he missed him and tucked them into his uniform. Finally, the payload, the top-secret documents. They chained a leather briefcase to Major Martin's trench coat. Inside were incredibly high-level personal letters written by actual British generals, casually discussing the upcoming invasion of Greece and Sardinia, and referring to Sicily as a mere diversionary tactic. To ensure the Germans had actually opened the letters if the briefcase was found, the British placed a single microscopic eyelash inside the folded top-secret documents. If the eyelash was missing when the documents were returned by the Spanish, they would know the trap had been sprung. Act 3. The drop in the check. In April 1943, the body of Major Martin, packed inside a specialized dry ice canister to preserve the illusion of a fresh drowning, was loaded onto the British submarine HMS Seraph. The submarine navigated through the mine-infested waters of the Mediterranean and surfaced just off the coast of Huelva, Spain. The crew brought the canister on deck, read a brief naval burial service, and gently slipped Major Martin into the dark water, letting the tide carry him toward the shore. Now the British could do nothing but wait and see if the enemy would fail their insight check. A few hours later, a Spanish sardine fisherman found the body floating in the surf. Exactly as the British had calculated, the local Spanish authorities took custody of the body and the briefcase. The Nazi spy network in Spain immediately caught wind of the discovery. After days of tense diplomatic maneuvering, the Spanish secretly allowed a German intelligence agent to take the briefcase into a dark room for a few hours. The German agent carefully extracted the wet letters, photographed every single page, and then put them back. But he missed the microscopic eyelash. It fell away, confirming the breach. When the briefcase was officially returned to the British Embassy days later, London checked the envelopes. The eyelash was gone. Winston Churchill, who was in the United States at the time, received a coded telegram that read, "Mincemeat swallowed rod, line, and sinker." Act 4. The ultimate exploit. But the true test of this historical glitch was whether the German High Command would actually act on the false intelligence. The photographs of the top-secret letters were rushed to Berlin. The Abwehr analyzed the pocket litter, the bank overdraft, the theater tickets, the love letters from Pam. The human details were so overwhelmingly authentic that the German intelligence analysts bought the story completely. They concluded that this level of mundane human chaos simply could not be forged. The deception went all the way to the top. Adolf Hitler read the reports and became absolutely convinced that Greece was the true target. He ordered a massive strategic realignment. Entire panzer divisions were pulled out of the Soviet front and rushed to Greece. Torpedo boats, artillery, and tens of thousands of German troops were deployed to the Balkans, leaving Sicily highly vulnerable. In July 1943, the Allies launched Operation Husky, invading Sicily. They expected a massacre. Instead, they found deeply depleted German defenses. The invasion was a massive success, costing thousands of fewer Allied lives than the worst-case projections, and it triggered the collapse of Benito Mussolini's fascist regime in Italy. The story of Operation Mincemeat is a profound reminder that the greatest hacks in history aren't always technological. Sometimes the most powerful system exploit is simply understanding human nature. British intelligence took a tragic, forgotten man built a flawless narrative around him, and successfully crashed the entire strategic logic of the Nazi Empire. Glyndwr Michael, the man who never was, rests today in a cemetery in Spain, recognized finally as the man who saved countless lives. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the moments when human psychology, strategy, and history collide, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss an episode of History Glitch. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next system crash.